Welcome, everyone. It is, as always, an honor to be here. To begin my talk, I'm going to quote from your Reverend Jim, and I saw him before the service, and he said, okay, just make sure I quote him correctly. In his September letter that he sent out just like a week ago, he said, most religious traditions are grounded in stories, beliefs, and dogmas, which must be accepted to belong. I also suggested to Jim that he must have had a spy cam in my computer room at home, because he, in that one sentence, is summing up what I was going to talk about today. But I'm going to go into more detail. Now, I'm only going to add one word to what he said there. I'm going to talk strictly about Christian religious traditions. How do they handle the invitation, the practice of inviting people? So I went to over a dozen websites, official websites for various denominations, and I universally found they almost all say somewhere in their website, all are welcome. Universally, all are welcome. I have to add on, though, the words but, yet, however. All are welcomed, but you must believe certain dogma and doctrine that we have. You do not have a choice. All are welcome, but you must accept the gender that we tell you that you are, and that you must accept that your gender will determine whether you can become a minister, a priest, a deacon, an elder, or any other position within our denomination. All are welcome. However, it takes money to run our denomination, and therefore you must be willing either to tithe and accept giving money in all those special occasions when we need more money. All are welcomed. However, we have a sacred text, and we will tell you which version of the 52 English versions of the Bible that you must use, and you must believe that it is a sacred text and that it's the Word of God. All are welcomed, but we expect you to marry within our denomination. All are welcomed. However, if you want your children to come to our daycare, our school, our camps, you must be a member in good standing. And of course, what does good standing mean? You come to our services and you pay the proper amount to be in good standing. And of course, we will let you know what that is. All are welcome, but we want you to only socialize with those who think like we do, our members. And every one of those points I give you, I have personally seen in Christian denominations, even today. Now, all of these denominations will say, we are doing what Jesus of Nazareth said we are supposed to be doing. So let's go back 2,000 years ago, and what did Jesus of Nazareth do? How did he invite people? Well, this is attested in all four Gospels in the Bible. And I don't care what English version of the Bible, they all pretty much say the same thing. How did Jesus go about inviting? He looked at you and said, come, follow me, and I will make you a fisher of people. And what were the qualifications that went with it? listen to what I say and do as I do. Who did he do this to? I mean, who did he go up to and say, come follow me? He went up to illiterate, subsistent fisher people. He went up to women who were toiling and supporting their families in those days. He went to the poor and downcast. He went to the rich. He went to everyone. He was all inclusive. So then you have to say, okay, what effect did this have on the people who saw and heard him? Once again, this is attested in all the Gospels. What did the people who watched what he did say? They said, look at him. He's sitting and eating with tax collectors and sinners and prostitutes. Now, a little digression here. I want to explain two terms, tax collectors and sinners, in the context of 30 AD, not in the context of, 2024. A sinner was anybody that wasn't a practicing member of the Jewish faith. So it was a Gentile, a Roman or a Greek. Or it was a person who was Jewish who no longer practiced being Jewish. It was not a term of endearment. It was very much a term of scorn. And what was a tax collector back then? They weren't a member of the IRS. No matter all the horrible stories you hear about the IRS today is tame compared to what tax collecting was done in 30 AD. The Romans had conquered the area. They wanted their taxes. But the Romans were smart enough to realize you don't send Romans into the countryside to collect taxes. It's one way of getting rid of Romans. So what the Romans did is they outsourced it, using a modern term, and they would get locals to collect taxes for them under the simple rule, here's what we want. Anything you collect above and beyond what we want, you get to keep. Yes, I can see a lot of people nodding their heads. Yes, it's a great way for extortion. So there were individuals, I'm sure they never had a problem getting people to collect the taxes for them. Now, if you're the peasant farmer and the tax collector says, I want 20 bushels of wheat, he may be only giving 10 or 12 of them to the Romans. The rest he's keeping for himself. What are you going to do? You have no choice. Because if you don't pay your taxes, then maybe the Romans would show up. And if they did show up, they would take everything, including you, and sell you into slavery. As you can imagine, this did not make the locals who were the tax collectors very popular. If your son became a tax collector, or if your daughter married a tax collector, you were obligated to disown them, and they became pariahs in society. So, for Jesus to even talk to tax collectors was horrifying to many people because nobody talked to tax collectors. You put up with them. Yes, they may be rich, but their earnings were all based on rather horrible sinning ways. So what was the message Jesus was sending to everyone? He was saying, I am totally inclusive. Everyone is invited to be with me. Now, being with Jesus wasn't a free ride. He said, listen to what I say and do what I do. What did Jesus do? He fed the hungry. He gave drink to the thirsty. He healed the sick. He comforted those who were in sorrow. And this is what he wanted you to do when he said, come follow me. Now, after Jesus was gone, Paul of Tarsus summed it up best in one of his epistles, Another one of the things I'm going to read so I get it correct. He said in one sentence, there is neither Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female, for you are all one in Jesus. If you were going to sum up the only dogma that early Christianity had, it was in that one sentence. All are welcome without any qualifications necessary. So let's come back to the present. And I went out to the official website for the Unitarian Universal Fellowship. And I'm going to read, and I usually don't use notes when I give talk. I do have memory, but I want to make sure I quote this correctly. The 7 principles of universal Unitarianism are not dogma or doctrine. That is very much an exception of any Christian religious institution I looked at. But rather, they are a guide. And for invitation, the 3rd principle says, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in the congregation. Acceptance of one another. Unitarianism is saying all are welcomed. No strings attached. Hanging on your door to this congregation, and I'm sure to every Unitarian congregation, there's a sign that says LGBTQIA+. I had to get them all in there. Are welcomed. Unfortunately, you will not see that on most Christian denomination doors. But once again, this does not come freely to all the members here. There's a question that all of you must answer for yourself. And the question is very straightforward. Are you willing to sit down and break bread with tax collectors and sinners? Thank you.